Welcome. I'm Scott Grissom. I'm a professor here at Grand Valley State University. I teach computer science. And I wanted to take just a few minutes to tell you about Grand Valley and in particular the programs that we offer at the undergraduate level. So if you're looking for information about our graduate programs, our Master of Science programs, you'll look for a separate video that will explain that. But I want to dive in now and just tell you a little bit about Grand Valley and more about computer science in particular here at Grand Valley. And I will share my screen in just a moment. One moment, please. All right, I think we are set. All right, Chris, what do you see? Do you see the full screen with our pictures up on the right-hand side?
I see.
Or do you see the preview of PowerPoint?
I see the preview screen, so okay, I see the presenter screen.
Let me get rid of that. How about that now?
Yes. Yeah, good. I see the presentation.
All right. So sorry for that snafu, but we are flying live right now, and this is what happens with technology. So nothing new you haven't already seen in Zoom calls for the last 12 months. So once again, I'm Professor Scott Grissom in computer science, and I want to take you on a whirlwind tour of Grand Valley as well as our program. So if you don't know, Grand Valley State is in Michigan in the north half of the United States. So that means we have wonderful weather from March up through November. And then in November, it starts to get a little cold. Might see a little snow from November through February, maybe March. But overall, it's a really beautiful place to be. We're close to what's called the Great Lakes here in the United States. So about a 20-minute drive takes you to a number of nice beaches. And we have lots of other outdoor recreational opportunities. And although Grand Rapids is a pretty good sized city, the metropolitan area probably has maybe 300,000 people. We have two larger cities that you may have heard of called Detroit and Chicago, probably Chicago in particular, much larger town. And they're each about 2.5, 3 hours away from here. So nicely situated. One of the nice things of being in a fairly large metropolitan area is that we have a lot of companies that our students go to work for. So in particular in computing, we have people that become information technology specialists and cybersecurity specialists and work on their databases and software developers. So we'll come back to this in a moment. But the notion to have these number of large companies or a number of companies in the area is going to be really useful for your education as an undergraduate. A little bit about Grand Valley in general. So there's about 23,000 students total. Of those, about 300 of them are international, and we hope that you will join us and add to that number. A total of 70 countries represented, so maybe we will see you in the fall. We're really known for being a teaching university. So our faculty are here because we like to teach. We like to have that one-on-one relationship with our students. Classes are generally fairly small, so at least in our discipline of computing, about 35 students is going to be typical in the classroom. But this isn't just me saying that Grand Valley is a great place to be. We get lots of good publicity and awards from various magazines and other kind of rating services that explain that Grand Valley has quite a bit to offer, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. In particular then, so we've been talking broadly about Grand Valley, what we call the Padnos College of Engineering and Computing offers degrees in both engineering and computing and/or computer science. And so we are really proud of the facilities that we have that you would see here in person. So on the engineering side, there are lots of great labs with machinery that they can use to create devices and test devices. And in the computing world, we have several different unique computing labs that allow for hands-on learning when it comes to networks and databases and mobile application development. So the facilities, the campus in general, certainly a highlight of what we like to offer. Well, why would you want to study computing? Now, probably you've already got an idea, and that's why you're here, right? But you know that computing is certainly a hot topic. There's lots of growth opportunities, career opportunities throughout the world. And you can look at it as it's a great opportunity to be creative. So computing is not just about programming alone on your own computer, which is what some people view it as, but it's a very collaborative environment where we're here to tackle a lot of the great problems that society has. So whether it be climate change or dealing with economic upheaval or healthcare, all these different unique areas are supported by information technology. So we in the computing field are really at the center of all of it. And then certainly plenty of high-paying career jobs as well. Now, in particular here at Grand Valley studying computing, I like to say that there's about 6 unique aspects that we emphasize. One of them is that we have 4 separate undergraduate degrees, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but that's pretty unique. Most universities have maybe one kind of computing degree, generally called computer science. They might have a second one, sometimes called information systems, but we give you 4, which means that you can choose. When you start your first year at Grand Valley, you might have an idea of one kind of computing that you want to study, but then you may recognize there's something else that better fits your interest. And so we have that flexibility to move from one to another. And I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. We're very proud of our faculty, our instructors, our teachers. I'm here, I've been here for 21 years. I came here because I enjoy teaching undergraduate students, and that's the case for most of my colleagues. The number one reason or number one value when our students graduate and they say, what did you like most about Grand Valley? They almost always say it was the faculty. They took time to get to know us and to help us one-on-one. I already mentioned the small classes. So in computing, it's about 35 or so. Lab-based learning. So I mentioned some of the computer labs, but in particular, what we like is that some of our courses have what we call a lab component. So that means traditional college classes meet 3 days a week, let's suppose, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for an hour. But then we add to that another 2 hours inside the computer lab. So that's where you get to spend time sitting in front of the computer, maybe working with a buddy in the lab to solve some kind of problem that your instructor has put before you for each week. So depending on what you're learning that week in class, whether it be related to databases or networks or system administration or programming in some unique language, each week then you'll have the opportunity to practice that yourself while under the watchful eye of an instructor. So that kind of what we call hands-on learning, very valuable for students. We have what's called a required internship. So an internship is the term that we use for a part-time job that you'll have to acquire generally during your 3rd year here, sometimes in the summer between 2nd and 3rd year, or maybe between 3rd and 4th year. So that's a part-time job in the industry. So the very process of getting that job, meaning that you had interviews, you wrote a resume, and we help you do this along the way. But getting that job on your own is important. And then you work there for 3 or 4 months and get a lot of valuable experience, come back to school for another year typically. And then when you're ready to start your true career, if it were going to be here in the US, for example, then you would already have the opportunity or the experience of how to get that job and what working is like. And the other major aspect that we're particularly proud of is called the capstone experience. So capstone means it happens at the end of your academic career. So in year 4, we're going to put you in teams of 4 students, and then you're going to work for what we call a real client. That means we have local industry companies that come to us and say, we'd like some help. We want you to develop a new website for us, or we want to experiment with this new technology, and our regular employees just haven't had time yet to try it out. Or we want you to update this existing mobile app for the iPhone and the Android. So whatever it happens to be, it's a substantial project that you and your friends are going to work on for about a 3-month span. And during that process, you get very little help from the instructor because the goal is by year 4, you have learned to do this on your own. You know where to look, how to learn, new languages or new platforms or new what are called APIs, application programmer interfaces. So that capstone experience is also something very valued by our students as they graduate in year 4. So I mentioned the 4 degrees that we have. One is called computer science. That's the term that everybody knows. That's what most people coming in decide to start off with. And that's for people that want to generally do software development. Not always or not exclusively, but that's the best way to describe it. Information systems are for people that like working with computers, but they're also particularly good working with people, and they like using it in a business environment. So an information systems major, one of our students, will also take a lot of business classes and end up with what we call a minor in business, in addition to their major in information systems. Information technology is one of our newer degrees. These are for the people that enjoy working with computers. In particular, that I like to make sure that the networks are running, the databases are designed properly, the IT or information technology infrastructure has been designed and purchased and maintained correctly. And then finally, cybersecurity, very hot topic that you've heard about recently in the news, lots and lots of. Here we have sort of a combination of our computer science degree with several extra courses that help our majors protect systems against hackers, against loss of privacy, against data loss, so forth and so on. Or maybe they get into the crime field and they're actually investigating cyber crimes. So a very versatile field, topic, cybersecurity, and very popular. So those 4 degrees, you don't need to know what you want to do when you get here on day 1, but generally by the end of the first semester, you've probably got a pretty good idea. More information about all of our undergraduate degrees can be found at CIS, that's for Computing Information Systems, cis.gvsu.edu. So I encourage you to go there, explore, take a look around, and there'll be contact information at the end of this video, as well as on that website. Now I want to change focus to a little bit and hand off temporarily to one of our admissions counselors, Chris Hendry. Can you talk us through these slides? There's just going to be about 3 or 4, and just feel free to have me advance the slide when you're ready.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Scott. So yes, like Scott mentioned, this is our tuition information, and you'll see 2 different rates. You'll see the Michigan resident and non-Michigan resident tuition rates. So Michigan resident are for Michigan or residents of Michigan, and the non-Michigan residents, anyone who is not a Michigan resident is considered non-Michigan. So whether you're an international student or a student from Illinois or Florida, Texas, you would be considered non-Michigan. And so there's 2 different rates. And so at Grand Valley, our tuition is what we call a block rate. So if you take between 12 and 15 credits for a semester, you pay 1 rate. If you go over 15 credits, then you'll pay the block rate plus an additional credit hour charge for each credit over 15. But we encourage students to take at least 15 credits per semester. That will keep you on track to graduate in 4 years. So this will allow you to graduate as quickly as possible if you take 15 credits per semester. And so for room and board, these the costs that you see are estimated housing costs. And so there's a variety of different housing options that are available to you, and a variety of different meal plans that are available to you as well. But this is the estimated cost that you should have set aside for at least 1 year of attendance at Grand Valley. So freshman students as well are required to live on campus. So you'll need to be prepared to live on campus for your first year. After the first year, you're able to move off campus. But if you are a freshman student at Grand Valley, you'll need to live on campus. And we have a variety of housing options, including apartments, suites, townhouses that are available for you. And so we, of course, would be able to help you with the housing options as you go through that process after admission. And you can move to the next slide. And so here's information about scholarships. And so these are the scholarships specifically for international students. And so we offer the International Merit Scholarship, which is worth $5,000 a year. This scholarship is renewable for up to 4 years. And so this scholarship is a little bit different because it's not merit-based in the sense that you need a specific GPA or test score in order to qualify for it. We look at all of the documents in your application, and we'll use that to help us make our scholarship decisions. So we'll look at your academic performance, we'll look at test scores, we'll look at personal statements, we'll look at extracurricular activities, and then we'll use that information to help us make scholarship decisions. So students need to apply and submit all required documents by May 1st to be considered for this scholarship. And then our scholarship committee will review your application for any potential awards. And so we'll notify students by email that have received scholarships. There's also art, music, athletic, and other departmental scholarships available for international students, and actually for any student at Grand Valley. Those scholarships require additional steps. For the International Merit Scholarship, if you're admitted, you're automatically considered for this scholarship. But if you're interested in an art, music, athletic, or departmental scholarship, there's additional steps you need to take. So we can certainly help you with that process if you have questions about what you need to do for those additional scholarships outside of the International Merit Scholarship. And so here's our scholarships for US citizens. And so even though we have different tuition rates for Michigan residents and non-Michigan residents, any US citizen, regardless of where they live, are eligible for these scholarships. And so there's 4 scholarships that we have listed, and you can see the criteria for each one. For all of these scholarships, you'll need to apply by December 31st. So we need your application, or you actually need to be admitted by December 31st, sorry. You'll need to submit your application, your high school transcripts, and then your application fee. Once we have those items, we can review your application for scholarships and for admission. Now, if you apply by December 31st and are accepted by December 31st, you then have until July 31st to submit SAT or ACT scores for additional scholarship consideration. So December 31st, that date is just to make sure that you're eligible for scholarships. And then you can upgrade your scholarships or receive a higher scholarship if you submit a qualifying test score by July 31st. And so the Laker Scholarship is the lowest level scholarship. So you would need a 3.3 GPA to qualify for that. And then that would give you $2,000 per year. And then non-Michigan residents would receive a tuition differential. That would mean that students would go from the non-Michigan rate to the Michigan rate and get $2,000 on top of that. So for students that are outside of the state of Michigan, for US citizens outside of the state of Michigan, you would be at the same tuition rate as a Michigan resident if you received the Laker Scholarship. The Award of Excellence Scholarship is worth $5,000 a year, and students would need a 3.5 GPA, a 26 ACT, or 1240 SAT. So it's not necessary to take both exams. As long as you meet the qualifying score with one of those exams, that scholarship is yours. And just like with the Laker Scholarship, it comes with a tuition differential. And then our highest 2 scholarships, the Faculty Scholarship and the Presidential Scholarship, requires attendance at a competition. So we have a scholarship competition, and then that would allow you to compete for additional scholarship amounts. So for the Faculty Scholarship, students would need a 3.6 GPA, a 30 ACT score, or a 1370 SAT score. And so you would be able to get $1,000 to $3,000 a year on top of the Award of Excellence. So that would be $6,000 to $8,000 a year. And that's also including the out-of-state differential for non-Michigan US citizens, or non-Michigan residents that are US citizens. And then our highest level scholarship is the Presidential Scholarship, where students would need at least a 3.8 GPA, a 32 ACT, or a 1430 SAT score. And then this would give you $4,000 to $7,000 on top of the Award of Excellence every year. And then also, just like with the faculty, it requires attendance at a virtual competition. And so based on how well you do at the competition, that would determine the exact dollar amount that you would get. But just competing, you're guaranteed the minimum amount of $4,000. And then the better you do at the competition, the more you would receive, to a maximum of $7,000. And the presidential scholarship is also on top of the award of excellence. So between the two, you would get a minimum of $9,000 and then a maximum of $12,000. So just as a reminder, you need to be admitted by December 31st. And as long as you're admitted by December 31st, you get an extended deadline to July 31st to qualify for higher level scholarships.
So to be admitted by December 31st means I should apply by when to handle the whole process or the sequence?
So we will start reviewing and accepting students in September. So even though these dates that you see are for the fall of 2021, these dates are for the fall of 2022. So we'll start making admissions decisions for fall of 2022 in September of 2021. And so you would just need to apply by December of 2021, December 31st of December 2021, in order to then have the additional time to qualify for additional scholarships.
Okay, next slide, ready?
Yes. Okay, so here's admissions requirements. And so these are the basic requirements that students will need to submit. However, depending on the type of student you are, you may not need to submit all these requirements or all of these items. So we'll need your application and the application fee, and then we'll need high school transcripts. So those are required for all students. If you are a US citizen, you're not required to submit an exam for admission. So for American citizens, we are test optional. So the exams are not required. If you want a higher level scholarship, you will need to submit an exam, the SAT or the ACT. But for just basic admission, then we don't require an exam for US citizens. However, for international students, you are required to take one of the exams that are listed. So either the TOEFL, IELTS, PTE, SAT, ACT, or Duolingo. One of those exams are required for international students. And then international students will also need to submit a 1 to 2 page personal statement. The personal statement can be about any topic. It's important that you write something that's reflective of who you are, because we use that information not only for admission, but also for scholarships. So if we get an essay that really does a good job of explaining who you are and gives us more information about your background, your interests, then we can use that information to help us make our scholarship decisions. And then, that's something that will make you a stronger candidate as we go through the applications and determine who will receive scholarships. And then we have the scholarship website. And so you can go to this website and submit the application there. And so at Grand Valley, we don't have a separate international application or domestic application on our website. Our application will ask you the right questions based on based on the information that you put in. So you don't need to find a specific international application. So once you start putting your information in, you indicate that you're a citizen of a different country, then you'll get the information or you'll get the questions that are necessary for international students. So you don't need to search for a separate international application. It's all one application. And so we'll ask you the right questions based on the information that you're putting into it. But you can start the application process there. And then after you submit the application and pay the application fee, you can have your high school send us the transcripts, and then you can have your test score sent to us from the testing center. There is a section on the application where you can enter your essay, and so you don't need to send that separately, but you can actually include your essay with the application. And then once that's submitted, we'll add that to your file. And then once we get everything collected, once we get all the required documents, then we'll be able to review your application. And typically we'll make a decision within about a week of having all required documents. So we try to have those applications reviewed as quickly as possible so we can then get a decision back to you as soon as we can.
Okay.
Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, so here's important information. So these are our deadlines. So the scholarship deadline, it says May 1st. That's actually for international students. The scholarship, there's 2 scholarship deadlines for US citizens. You have December 31st, which is the admitted student deadline. So that's the initial application date for scholarships, December 31st. And then you have your secondary deadline of July 31st, which allows you to then qualify for higher level scholarships. And then the application deadline for fall is May 1st, and then for winter semester is October 15th. So we don't award scholarships for the winter semester. So that's why you don't see a scholarship deadline for winter semester. We only award scholarships to students that are starting in the fall semester. And then you'll see our application link. So you can go there, www.gvsu.edu/apply to start the application process. And you'll see my email address as well. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions about the admissions process, about scholarships, housing, financial aid. I can certainly answer those questions. Also on the slide, you have contact information for Dr. Paul Leidig. He's the director of the School of Computing. And feel free to contact Dr. Leidig should you have any questions about the actual programs, or you're looking for more information about some of the specific areas, whether you're interested in cybersecurity or information systems. He'll be able to help you with give you more of that information.
All right.
Okay.
So thanks, Chris, for helping me out. We've told you a little bit about Grand Valley, a little bit about the School of Computing, the opportunities here. You know all there is to know about the application process. And there's just lots of additional information online. We're eager to answer questions. So reach out to us if you need to. Thank you for being here.
All right, bye. Thank you for attending.